Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett along with Kent Myers. Welcome back. We're glad to have you here. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and we welcome back an old friend today.
We do, but we have to do a little celebrating as well because this, for our viewers' edification, is our 750th show. So when you say we're here every week, you really mean it. We don't know how we've lasted for 750 shows.
If we had a cake with that many candles, the fire marshal would be here immediately.
Well, and in the hopes that we'll last for 751, we've invited a guest today that we've had on before. He's a friend and just a wonderful addition to the sports community in Oklahoma, Barry Tramel, the writer for the Oklahoman on Sports Matters. He's been on a number of times before, and we're going to check out with him what's going on in sports in Oklahoma.
We're going to talk sports today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
I've known I was going to be an artist since I was a little kid. I still have teachers that in grade school that still have my artwork. I think I told them something along the lines, this is keep that, it's going to be worth money someday. I'm Justin Mader, I'm an artist, and I'm Chickasaw. My muse is the Muskogean, Mississippian art. When I see that, my mind just fills up with bubbles of ideas. My big thing right now is shell carving, the shell gorgets. My work is refined more and more until I found my own rhythm. I also do metallurgy, where I've been acid etching copper and hammering copper to make a copper repoussé. You only have one chance to do it right, so it requires a lot of planning and thought and just patience. My Chickasaw heritage is the foundation of who I am. It's the roots of where I come from, and it inspires me as an artist and inspires the tenacity of never giving up.
Learn more about today's Chickasaws at profilesofanation.com.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
As we indicated in the opening segment, we've got Barry Tramel as our guest, back again for his 9th appearance on The Verdict. Barry is a sports writer for the Oklahoman and a premier sports writer around the country, frankly. He did his undergraduate work in journalism at the University of Oklahoma. He joined the Oklahoman in 1991, so he's been there going on 24 years now. He is well known in the sports community and beyond as being someone who's up to date on all the developments, and that's why we wanted him to come on this memorable show for us. Barry, we're sure glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Great to have you back.
Well, thanks, Mick. 750. That's pretty good. You guys, unless you're on more than once a week, you're throwing some long years together.
Yeah, you could divide that by 52 and come up with the years, but that's too much math for the two of us. So.
That's right. I just know that we don't want to look at pictures of how we looked in our first show as compared to now. There's been significant changes, all for the better, of course.
Hey, it is Oklahoma-Texas week, and there's a continuing conversation about whether that game should be played in Dallas at the proposed neutral site. Should they move it home and away? What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I think the conversation has shifted over the years. It used to be, should they move it home and home? Should they move it to Norman and Austin? No one really makes that argument anymore because the universities have gotten the message out about how important that game is as a university tool for recruiting, for fundraising, for alumni relations, for all kinds of reasons. That's really, this game supersedes athletic competition, and the residual effects are so much greater when it's in Dallas. So it's not, I don't think it's leaving the Metroplex. The question is, do you move it to the nicer stadium? Do you get away from the state fair? And the fan base is fairly split. Some people want the tradition, some people want new bathrooms. So I mean, it really comes down to those kinds of questions. But I think the tradition is winning out. I don't think in the foreseeable future they're going to entertain a serious move to leave the Cotton Bowl and the State Fairgrounds. They've got a nice contract. It's going fairly, I think it's 2024 is the agreement. So I think it's going to still be there on the grounds. I think what you'll see is I think they'll go at least till 2029. That'd be the 100th anniversary for playing consecutively at the State Fair of Texas. Maybe you start talking about things after that.
Well, I'm sorry.
That's good.
The impression that a fan gets who doesn't know anything about anything like me, to see a stadium absolutely half and half orange and half red in the case of this game, is certainly different than what the picture you get on a typical home and away series.
Yeah, it's a wonderful spectacle,
Yeah.
and the people that have gone all these years really enjoy the fair, the revelry around being in Dallas for the weekend. You couldn't replicate the fair experience if you move it to Arlington. However, there are issues with the stadium. I mean, that stadium is basically, they've been playing on those grounds, but the stadium itself is 80-something years old. It was constructed in the 30s, been added onto, been renovated from time to time, but never really updated. Every couple of years, you get words that the plumbing and those kinds of things have been fixed, and they never really are. So, so there are serious issues, and at some point we probably will have a major situation where people just say enough is enough. Yeah. And what's unfortunate in my mind is the Dallas fathers who 10 years ago had the chance to build Jerry Jones Stadium there on the fairgrounds and chose not to, and Arlington got it. That to me would have been the great compromise.
Is there a sense about what people in Texas think about that tradition? Is it different than what an Oklahoman thinks when they look at it?
Well, I mean, there's always been the common belief that the game is more important to Oklahoma than it is to Texas in terms of the schools and the fan bases. I don't know if that's true. If it was ever true, I don't know if it's true anymore, because look at the Longhorns. They used to be like Oklahoma. They had three traditional rivals. They had a conference supremacy rival, Arkansas. Oklahoma had Nebraska. An in-state rival, OU had Bedlam. Texas had A&M, and then they had each other. Well, Texas-Arkansas, that's a dead rivalry, and now Texas A&M and Texas don't play. And the Sooners are the last rival standing. So I think that's become a rivalry that's even more important to the Longhorns, and probably has gotten an equal standing down there in Austin as it is here in Oklahoma.
Let's talk about the Big 12 in a larger view. People that support college football in this state want their conference to be the dominant conference in the country. It's hard to make that argument with the Southeast Conference being as strong and as plentiful with teams as it is today. Where is the Big 12 in the hierarchy?
The Big 12 is really scrambling to get some footing. Being omitted from the college football playoff last December really hurt the prestige of the conference, hurt its pride, self-pride, and it's going to be interesting. We don't know how things will shake out here in early October. We got another 2 months, but if somehow the Big 12 was shut out of the college football playoff again, I mean, it wouldn't be a death blow, but it would be a severe stroke against this league and its own image. And I think some steps would be taken. I think there's a good chance this league is going to go to a conference championship game no matter what. Another omission, I think you'll see the Big 12 take steps to expand and see how that goes. But since there's not any great candidates, certainly not two great candidates, the league's on some shaky ground. Not in the near future. The contracts are fairly solid. I think up through 24 through 25, the Big 12 will exist. But after that, I'm not so sure.
Is an odd number of teams in the Big 12 a problem? And talking about expansion, could the Big 12 enhance their stature by adding just one team rather than two?
Well, maybe. I mean, Brigham Young, in my mind, is the obvious choice.
That's who I had in mind.
The problem with 11 is that still doesn't get you to the 12 with two divisions that create a title game. You could play a title game, but it wouldn't be the traditional format of two divisions, and it would cause scheduling problems because with 11 teams, you either have to play everybody and have a 10-game schedule, or you have to go down to an 8. The math doesn't work where 11 teams can play a 9-game conference schedule. So I don't think that's the direction the Big 12 wants to go. I think 12's a lot more likely.
All right, let's switch to basketball. Thunder getting ready to start. Most everybody's optimistic as the season draws near.
All on the health, last year Thunder was as good as they ever were last year. They just didn't have their players. Westbrook misses 16 games, I think. Ibaka misses 17. Kevin Durant plays only 29 games. I mean, if you don't have your players, you're not going to win. So those guys need to get healthy. It's going to be a season in which Durant's contract status, this is his last year of his contract, will have sort of an overshadowing effect on everybody. But after what we went through last year and seeing all those players gone and seeing that that winning is not assured, I think just celebrating this season is going to come into a more of an effect than maybe it would have otherwise. I mean, I think people are less worried about Durant now because they've seen that even with Durant some bad things happen. Let's just try to win some games, and if everybody stays healthy, the Thunder's as good as anybody. So I think there's a lot of reason for optimism.
Are there any positions that if you were Sam Presti all of a sudden, are there any positions on the team, spots on the team that need some help?
Oh, you could always use a better a two-way guard, but there's about 10 of those guys in the league, and so there's 30 franchises, so they're not readily available. I think the Thunder roster is pretty well set. I think this is what they're going with, well over the salary cap, well over the luxury tax, so not a lot of maneuverability for the roster. You pretty much have to play with what you got. Anybody that you would add or bring in is going to be a low salary type player, so probably not a lot of help coming in the way of roster additions. Doesn't mean it won't happen. You'll see some roster changes, you always do, but it won't be significant. The Thunder's a deep team. They've got 12 or 13 guys they really are counting on to play. You can only play 10, maybe 11 in any one game. So they've got a lot of options. What they're going to have to figure out with Billy Donovan at coach is, Steven Adams is a defensive center. Enes Kanter is an offensive center. How do you work those guys together? How much do you go small and not play a center? That's what the regular season's going to be for. See how Billy Donovan can work this new roster and how this roster can work with their new coach.
We'll continue that discussion, pick it up talking about the Thunder with Barry Tramel after this.
The land to us is how we make our living. It's not an easy life. This land that OERB restored for me had pump jack stands, it had old building foundations with pipes sticking out of them. I could never have been able to afford to do these improvements like OERB did. They didn't just come out and put a Band-Aid on it. It's back to the prairie.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Camp Myers. We're visiting with Barry Tramel. Tell us about Billy Donovan's impact on changing from college to the NBA.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Billy Donovan is has never coached in the NBA. Spent part of a season playing in the NBA, and since then has been 25 years on the college game. So, what kind of relationship he can build with professionals is going to be an interesting case. You would think it would be a difficult transition. It is for most coaches. The one thing about Donovan is most coaches who have made the jump from college to the NBA have not taken over a roster like this. Most guys are put into rebuilding situations where they're sort of destined to fail. He's taken over a great roster. And the thing I like about him, which I didn't know until Sam Presti hired him, is personality-wise, he's very low-key and humble. He's not a big ego guy, which frankly was not what I was expecting. Most coaches have a pretty big ego. We were spoiled by Scott Brooks, who's sort of an everyman, a normal type person. That's not the run-of-the-mill professional coach. But there's a lot of that in Billy Donovan too. What I found most interesting about Billy Donovan is this. He spent 20 years at Florida, built a fabulous NCAA power, and when he left Florida, they were dismayed at him leaving, and they were the people I talked to, everything I read, no one was lamenting the loss of a basketball coach. They were lamenting the loss of the man and his impact on the community. So to me, that spoke very highly of Billy Donovan, and I think portends well for what he might be able to do with building relationships with these Thunder players.
On the court, in the Scott Brooks era, the two position was used as a defensive position, not a guy with high usage. Was that a reflection on Sam Presti's wishes, or was that Scott Brooks? And do you think that'll change with the head coach change?
Well, I think that was a Scott Brooks. I could be wrong, but I think Sam Presti let Scott Brooks coach the team. And I think they had conversations, but I don't think there were any strong-arming or maybe not even any suggestions on more minutes for this guy or Tabo's playing too much. And I think Sam gave Scotty Brooks a lot of rope, and it worked. We can talk about details or certain games, but you have to say that what Scott Brooks did worked. It's going to be interesting to see what Billy Donovan does with the lineup. Does he want offense at the two guard? Does he want offense at the center? Does he want to balance it out? Is he going to try to make the bench strong? All those things are fascinating. We pretty much knew what Scotty Brooks was going to do. He coached our team for 7 years, and it was almost push button. We could make the substitutions for him. We don't know about Billy Donovan. That's going to be interesting, especially here early in the season.
I've always thought that the suggestion that you can somewhat judge a leader by the staff they assemble around them. If they assemble good people around them, there's a pretty good prognosis on that. If they don't, there's the opposite. Talk about the staff that Donovan has acquired. I was particularly pleased with Mo Cheeks coming back. I mean, he's just a favorite for a sentimental reason, no other.
Well, I like what you said because I like the staff and the diversity, and Billy Donovan didn't go out and get a bunch of Billy Donovan guys.
Right.
Billy Donovan went out and got a couple of former NBA coaches, one who had ties to Oklahoma City, Mo Cheeks, but getting Monty Williams I think was a great get. Monty Williams did an excellent job coaching the New Orleans Pelicans, and before that when they were the Hornets. And it wasn't that he won big, but anytime you watch New Orleans play, his teams played hard, they played defense, and they were in most games even when they didn't have the talent to do it. I thought he was an excellent coach. I thought New Orleans maybe just got a little tired of not winning quickly, made the coaching change. He's on board now. Billy did bring one of his longtime lieutenants, Anthony Grant, been a head coach at Alabama. And is a really long-time and successful coach. So it's a good diversity of staff, lots of different backgrounds. But the fact that he did go out and get lots of NBA experience that really no ties to Billy Donovan, I thought was very key.
as the season evolves on the Thunder, what ought to we be looking at to judge how well we're doing? I mean, I realize win-loss is an important thing, but beyond that.
Here's a key to look at, and if you want to just study one thing, just look at Kevin Durant's foot every game, every night. If that foot's okay, things are going to be okay in general.
Yeah.
But check the minutes. Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant have played heavy minutes, and Scotty Brooks believed in that, and the guys, that's what they wanted. That's what Westbrook and Durant wanted. But, they're not the young players they were. It's not young superstars anymore now. They're not old. I'm not saying they're
intermediate.
But they're 27, 26 years old, and, they're in the primes of their career, and it's time to, maybe pull back on the minutes. They don't need to play 41 minutes a night, or, you might not need to push them as much as we've seen them being pushed. If you lose a game at Detroit in January, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
The health and well-being of those guys is more important, and so I think you're going to see and I think Billy Donovan recognizes that. So keep an eye on those minutes. Like I said, it's a deep team, so these guys, you can play Russell Westbrook 34 minutes a game, Kevin Durant 33 minutes a game, and you still got a quality product on the floor when they're on the bench.
The league seems to continue its trajectory up. I mean, just as a worldwide spectacle, the NBA seems to be hotter than ever.
The number one NBA market in the world is in China. It makes Yao Ming is long retired. It's crazy how popular the NBA is, and it's in this country the new TV market, the new TV contract for the NBA. Of course, live sports is the hot button issue for television because people will still watch live sports live, and so it's a financial bonanza for the NBA. So yeah, the league is doing fantastic. Had great champions the last 2 or 3 years. Golden State was a sort of a Cinderella team that came out of nowhere. Before that, San Antonio, and then LeBron James. So they've got the stars with the Durants and now the Anthony Davises and those guys coming up. So the league's in fabulous place, in a fabulous place. Adam Silver, the new commissioner, seems to be doing a great job, very popular. The only looming problem is a potential lockout in next summer. But there's a lot of talk that maybe it doesn't have to happen. There's a lot of talk that Adam Silver can get together with the union and maybe saying, look, we're all doing great. Let's not kill the golden goose. So it's an optimistic time in the league.
In the short time we have remaining, give us a short summary of your view, excuse me, of Oklahoma State basketball and OU basketball for the coming year.
Well, it's these guys will start playing here in just a few weeks. Should be a great year for Oklahoma. I got most of the veterans back on a Sweet 16 team that could have made the Final Four with just a break or two. So Buddy Hield is back. Lots of optimism in Norman. Lon Kruger's doing a great job. It could be a breakout year for the Sooners. Going to be more of a struggle in Stillwater, sort of another rebuilding job for Travis Ford. I will say this. Travis Ford made the NCAA tournament last year, and going into the year, I didn't think there was any way he could. So I'm not going to cut him short. I think they could make the NCAA tournament, but they don't seem to have the horses to do much when they get there. Oklahoma State's 3 straight years is one and done in the NCAA tournament. That's really where your season is judged, and so Travis needs sort of an infusion, a spark to get the excitement back in Stillwater. I don't think it'll happen this year.
Barry Tramel's with the Oklahoman, our guest today on The Verdict. Thanks for coming in.
You bet. Thanks for having me, guys.
Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
There are now 11 million of us who live here and work here. I was 15 when I came here 6 years ago. I raised my family here, drive my truck to my job every day. The only difference between now and 6 years ago, I do it legally. I wanted to. because this is my home.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
I really think people are so unaware of the number of kids waiting just in Oklahoma. And I think if more people knew that those children were out there waiting, I think that just by the way we live our lives and the people we talk to, that maybe we can help encourage adoption from Oklahoma.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers wrapping up a show with the Oklahomans' Barry Tramel.
Yeah, such a good guy and such a good guest to bring to you. He's very generous with his time and he's right on top of sports in Oklahoma. That's what we wanted to talk about today, and he did a great job.
He did. He's a columnist, and so I point that out because he's not given a specific beat, and so Barry has to know everything about everything, to be able to have thoughtful commentary. And of course, we were just throwing questions at him. He didn't know where we were coming from, but he handles it with such grace and such depth. You really appreciate, his broad-based knowledge as well as his ability to turn it into an interesting story in the paper.
Indeed.
A couple of websites for you. TheOklahoman.com is where you can find Barry's work. And we have a website, theverdict.tv. I'd love for you to head to our website and tell us about a guest you'd like to see. Kent and I'll be back next week with show number 751. We'll see you then.